All right, friends, welcome to the Timeless Truth Summit podcast, where Summit Foundations meet today's salon realities. We're a bunch of Summit coaches and a guest from the Summit community where we discuss the principles that built our industry with sound financial practices, intentional marketing, career paths, leadership, and culture. The words and style may have changed over the years, but the heart of Summit hasn't. Join us today as we share stories, lessons, and timeless truths to inspire the next generations of salon leaders. My name's Chad Foss, and I'll introduce, we got Jacob, Richard, and a really good buddy and a guest representative today under JJ or Jason, an awesome dude. We're really excited to have him on our podcast today. And what we're really going to be talking about today are PDMs. So just a quick thing that was really inspiring this podcast today is as we went into 2026 and we were scheduling out PDMs for the year, I was starting to get a little bit of pushback from our salon owners. And that's what kind of inspired this podcast today. So we wanted to get this panel together and start talking about PDMs coming into 2026, because I feel like more than ever, if you're looking at your schedule and you start to see PDMs on your books and it starts to make you feel uncomfortable or not excited about it, we honestly believe you're doing them wrong. So we're going to hit on home on that today. And my first question to my friends today are, what do you guys feel as coaches and even as salon owners, what's the biggest mistake that you see that maybe yourself have experienced or salon owners that you coach make when they're running their PDMs? And what are some simple fixes that they can implement this week to maybe have that game-changing PDM and a fresh start coming into 2026? And Jacob, I'm gonna have to start with you, buddy.
Yeah, so I think I'll speak from my own experience as a barbershop and salon owner, facilitating one-on-ones the last 8 years. The mistakes that I saw in myself, one was inconsistency, right? And so sometimes it happened, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it was on a Tuesday, sometimes it was on a Friday, right? Like no real structure. And then the agenda often was written and from my lack of experience, where I did most of the talking. I came in with all the information, and I just remember those first 2 years just like being drained, like literally having to go to Chili's and having a Presidente margarita every time after a day of one-on-ones, because I was just gassed. And I just thought, like, man, this isn't fun. Like, this isn't fun for me. Like, I'm exhausted. And so I think one of the tips that I could share that really helped me to bring consistency to PDMs was, when you go to schedule them out for the year. So what does that look like? Put the blocks in your software, right? And let your staff know. For us, it's the second Tuesday and Wednesday of every month. So those blocks are preset. They know that, hey, I can't schedule an appointment around over that. Like, everybody, understands what it is and where it is, and it's not I didn't know it was happening. I put those same blocks in my personal calendar so that, don't schedule anything else around that. So that's first, right? Just kind of the discipline of putting that on your books and seeing it for the rest of the year. And then second was just learning over time how to make it about them and not about myself. Letting them speak more than I did. So most recently, Summit, we've launched the Smart Series. So that's on our website. You get access to it. It's like $29, I believe, the series. Quick, short learning, 20 to 30-minute videos, and then you get a PDF deliverable with it. And I've taken Kim Light's Smart Series, and she goes over one-on-ones and kind of puts a fresh spin on it with a beautiful outline and format from beginning to end. And we've started implementing that, and that's now the outline. So it's like that gives us structure, that gives us consistency. We always start with the personal why, then we ask, what's the passion, or I'll expand on that and say, like, what's your passion today? Share with me what's joy. Give me a moment of joy you've had in the last month since we last talked. Things along those. We'll speak to the heart, and then we'll get into the numbers, and then celebrations and what they're working on and what their struggles are, and so on and so on. So it's been great. They get to rate the one-on-one at the end. So how do 1 to 10, how do they feel? I get to rate it, and then they get to leave a word of how they're feeling. Excited, motivated, frustrated, whatever that is. So
Yeah, I love that, man. So, I mean, what's coming away from me is first thing is definitely you're organized with it, right? And then the second part of that is you're really intentional. And even when I mean with intentionality, like it sounds like you're prepared for it, right? And at the end of the day, you're making it about them and not you. I think that's where it feels emotionally exhausting is sometimes we get in this rut as owners and leaders, right? Where you make it more about you instead of them, right? So yeah, I love all that, Jacob. Richard, how about for you?
I think the biggest mistake is like what Jacob was saying is that they don't schedule them in. They just kind of wing them, or they wait until something stupid happens, whatever that stupid is, right? Like, and then, oh, I need to schedule this one-on-one with this employee, and then by the time that happens, then it's too late. That conversation should have been yesterday. But if they're scheduled in, then the stylist they start looking forward to them. Like, hey, let me check in with you. Let me tell you what I've been up to. Versus like, hey, I'm checking in with you. I want to know what you're up to. And figuring out their why. Why do they come to work? That's what they're meant for. Is like, why do you show up every day? Why did you choose my company over all these other companies to work for? Right? That check in. It's a good time. It's one on one. Sometimes I know when I was an employee, it was easier for me to talk to like my manager or something in private versus bringing up stuff to the whole team. Because sometimes there's stuff that's just relatable for just that individual. And so they don't want to bring it up to the whole team, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
making sure that you schedule out every year. Like for my company, similar to Jacob, he does Wednesday, Thursdays. I do the first Thursday of every month, unless the Thursday lands on like the first or second. Um, and come prepared, come with their numbers. And then I never talk about numbers unless they bring them up. I never
Yeah.
talk about their levels or anything like that unless they bring it up. I do like to compare what they did. If they've been with me for a while, I'll compare last year to this year's numbers because even if they're like a level 2 or a 3, year over year and seeing where their growth is um, from last year's level 2 to this year's level 2.
Yeah, I love that. So, and I think too, what also resonates with me, like what you're saying too, Richard, is, PDM is short for personal development meeting. And, it's been called one-on-ones back in the day. It's been called a lot of different things, but where we're kind of like the new kind of verbiage is PDMs or personal development meetings as well. But I love what you said there too. It's like, it gives them again those PDMs aren't there for you. It's there for them to kind of have a voice, right? To be heard. And I think at the end of the day, right? Like I literally just had this week. I literally heard from somebody at Salon owner that they were going to use their PDM to let somebody go. And I, reached out to them right away, and that's absolutely not what a PDM is about, right? So where there's already some unknowns and some challenges and some fears around PDMs. So if your team is going to find out that you let somebody go during a PDM, like that's not going to be a good result when you're building your culture, especially around personal development meetings. So awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think when they have a voice, they're going to feel heard. And then that definitely helps with retention as well. Jason, what's your perspective?
Well, good morning, guys. I
Yeah.
will say, number one, always have PDMs in a quiet place. I'm breaking the rule today because that's why I'm muting myself. It's kind of loud. Uh, Man, Jacob, kicking it off exactly where I would have started is talking too much. I mean, we have so much experience. We want it so bad for them, and we can see what they need to do. And so we just blah, la, 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 la. And they're glazed over, they leave, they're kind of stunned. It's like this habit, and it's not because a lot of us, it's not an ego thing. We think we're better than them. It's because we've been there and we want it so bad. That's the first thing that was always hard for me to control. And I try to do that good, at least the 80-20. I want them to talk 80% of the time or more. And so I love that. And Richard, you too, you guys both touched on that. So I won't stay there. I think there's another type of coach, and I've also been this type of coach in my career for 20 years. Um, reading faces, reading faces and adjusting my message based on the emotion or lack of emotion that's across the table from me. The ones that you can see the pressure all over their face. You may not even be talking about something or pushing them for numbers or anything, but you can see them get uncomfortable or anxious. And so you back off, right? Instead of that healthy push to let's grow, that's something that I had to learn early on. I need to get out. It's not about me, right? And if there's emotions coming, there's a proper time to back off or to lean in. But just at the one whim of discomfort, you back off and you talk about Chick-fil-A and what's your favorite Starbucks drink and have a great week and I'll see it. It'll be okay. Your numbers get no. Walking that line is really hard. Like talking too much is this side of the road and being scared of the emotions that are coming. And the other thing is imposter syndrome. I've gone through seasons where all the people I'm coaching, like no one is getting close to a level jump. And it's like a drought and it's like months. And I'm like, I suck. I don't care if I've been doing this 20 years. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Maybe it's the new generation, blah, blah, blah. And all these insecurities start going in my head. But I'm sure we'll get into talking about kind of some systems and some things to be able to kick off meaningful meetings. Those things are what help me get out of my head. So good
Yeah.
stuff, guys. Good stuff.
Yeah. I love everything that you just said, Jason. I think because I think you're the most important, what I just heard you kind of say is, I think most salon owners avoid PDMs because they're uncomfortable, not because they don't believe in them. Right. And I think that because at the end of the day, if you don't coach your team intentionally, they're going to eventually coach themselves.
And I
So
want to add, go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead. I think that's coming up for me because I truly believe, especially in a Summit Salon owners, like they've been coached and they know and they've done seminars that they do believe in them, right? But it's just it can be uncomfortable because if you really open it up to curiosity, right, to really understand what's going on or reading those facial cues, it can get really uncomfortable really fast. So yeah, Jacob, what's coming up for you?
What two thoughts at what combination of what you guys said, I guess the question, Richard said he doesn't talk to numbers. Everybody else, yes, you bring up numbers in one-on-ones, like that is part of the outline.
Yeah, I think my first mistake, because I'm a logical numbers-based person, I would say my first probably 1 to 3 years, I would talk a lot about numbers, but then realizing when they get to a higher level, it's not necessarily about the numbers, but about them, right? So yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, that's a simple fix right away. If you start out with the numbers right away, that's a quick fix right away that you can implement this week is to not talk about numbers, right?
Yeah. And so I asked that because I think that's a common mistake, right? Like that was the question, like what's a common mistake? We have that, I believe it's the stylist indicator worksheet, right? We plug in the numbers, we see what they did for the month. Now we get an average, January, February, March. And I think for me recently, I've caught myself as I have my level ones getting close to their level two for the last 3 months, right? And they're like, but every time you're telling me I'm close, and every time you're telling me I'm close, but I'm still not there. And I look at them and I'm like, now to be at the level, like the experience level to say, but look at all the other KPIs, look at all the other areas you've grown since then, and make it about that part of their journey. So I said the level jump, the promotion, that's just the icing to you having become the stylist, the barber that you've dreamt of being, right? And when they look at it, they take that kind of step back and they're like, wow, you're right. It's like, for me, it's a proud moment to be able to see that for them, and then like be able to not just be so hung up on like, well, you missed it by $20 and like you didn't, that's one more upgrade, like you could have done it. You failed, you suck, right? Therefore, then
Right.
I feel like I failed, I suck.
Yep.
And so that brought that to mind. So I think, if you're facilitating one-on-ones, like take a step back and like try to see the bigger picture around that stylist or barber for in your company, and highlight some of the things that they're accomplishing. It could be a type of haircut, right? Like, hey, remember when you couldn't do a bob, and the last 2 weeks I've seen you execute really great bobs. Hey,
Yeah.
remember when you couldn't do a skin mid fade, and like you just killed that one on that guy and he left you a great review? Like, that's stuff you were dreaming about 9 months ago.
Yes. And I think that's a really good segue to the second question, guys. So when a stylist, is shut down or emotional or even survival mode, either personally or professional, like what scripts or how do you approach to help them open up and create that trust in a PDM? So Jason, I know this is kind of like your bread and butter a little bit. Like how do what scripts are you approach when they come in and you can kind of tell from their emotion and their energy that they're not ready to necessarily talk numbers or growth in a PDM. So I'd like to open that up to you.
And this is my jam. And what I want to say first off is I've had so many meetings, and when I used to do my meetings, I would just start out with here's your numbers, and some of them, okay, cool, but you could see some of them were about to cry, or some
Yeah.
of them were just looking at the floor, and I just learned. Sometimes I would sit across from one of them and start talking, and I would see her face, and I would literally get my computer and just shut it and
Mhm.
say, okay, let's not start there. And it taught me this great lesson, and it's this, guys, like classic coaching. Classic coaching is communicate, empower, and launch. Communicate. Jacob, here's what you hit, here's how far you are, here's the gap. Empower, here's what you need to do. Launch, go get them, buddy, and I'll see you on the first next month, and we'll see if you did better. And it didn't mean that it was rude, but it was just boom, boom, boom. Communicate, empower, launch.
Yeah.
What I learned is engage, explore, communicate, empower, launch. Engage is, you know, Jacob, you know, we can start anywhere you want today. This is your meeting. And I always tell, especially when I start coaching them, I don't want you to sit with me and feel like you're meeting with the principal. I don't want
Mhm.
you to sit with me and think you're meeting with the boss because I'm making sure you're producing for my company. Like, I've committed to be your coach, your mentor, your biggest cheerleader. So I'm always going to ask them, where do you want to start? And some of them are like, JJ, start with the numbers because I'm excited about this. But engage is like, hey, outside these doors, how's life? What's going
Mhm.
on? Like, what's good? And one thing that I'll give owners is I have a few things. Story cards. You can order them online. I could, give you guys the link. It's just pictures of different cards, like a lock on a gate, a kid on a swing, ducks on a pond, like all these random pictures, and you spread them out. And when the stylist comes and sits down, I'm like, all right, here's all these cool pictures. Pick the picture that describes what life is like for you right now. And they love it. And they pick a picture and they're like, this one. I'm like, tell me about it. I'm going to pick one too. And it's magic because they start talking about what's going on, how they're feeling in their life. Are they feeling stuck? Are they feeling excited? And we get to share together. Um, there's a thing I have that I call the rose check-in. Think of a rose. It's the stem, it's the thorns, it's the bloom, right? The stem is what's keeping you grounded. The thorn is what is your biggest challenge right now. And the bloom is what are you most excited about? And I'll let them think for a minute and we share what's keeping you grounded. Here's what's keeping me grounded. It's this human contact, human contact is always what's missing from having a real dynamic relationship with your team. And so I think those things like being human first, and I know
Mhm.
there's a lot of owners, and depending on your Enneagram wiring and how you're wired, having personal conversations can be very intimidating. It's like, well, what if they say something and I don't know how to deal with it? These are really easy ways to just show, hey, I care more about you than what you produce for me. And so I think the third thing I'll say about this, about getting someone to start talking and to being open, is I will air myself out. When I was younger, I wanted to look like I had all of my stuff together so they would believe me and trust me and then work hard to do the same thing. So now, as soon as we start talking, and if we're doing the rose check-in and one of my ladies says, well, I'm really struggling with this, I'll be quick to say, you know what? I met with my therapist last week and he said this, and it kind of goes with that. And that's what I've been struggling with too. Like that Me Too moment. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hide that I've got a therapist. That's powerful, and I'm going to pass those messages on. So, not trying to look like you've got it all together, doing things to engage on a human level, I think are the biggest tips I can give for this one.
I love that, man. Man, we got some people out there that are playing checkers when it comes to PDMs. You got some people like Jason playing chess over here. So I freaking love that, man. So what's going up for, like Richard, for you? What's coming up for you, buddy?
Making sure that I'll trying to break down that wall, that barrier. I like what Jason said about reading the room, reading their face, right, earlier. Really hone in on that. Like if like it's difficult if they think that they're failing at their level or whatever, they're going to come in thinking this is just going to be getting yelled at by my dad. I'm in trouble,
Mhm.
or, and I really do. It's not, nobody's in trouble, right? It's like figuring out what they're there for, showing up for their performance, what makes them perform at their level. And I really like talking about the things that they have accomplished, or like what are their goals? What are their dreams? Like one of my favorite questions somebody asked me 100 years ago is, if time and money didn't matter, what would you do? Right? Like,
Yeah.
what would you do with your time? What would you do with what would you buy? And sometimes people are like, honestly, I would just get a new car. I'm tired of filling the oil and checking for gas, you know? um, like getting a new car or new tires, or I would like to save $100 a month or whatever it is. It's like you got to figure that stuff out before you can talk about the numbers, because the numbers don't mean anything
Right.
before then, right? Like, of course, we show up to work to earn an income, but what do we want to also fund, like our hobbies and things like that, like figuring out all that stuff.
Yeah. Man. Yep. I mean, I think that's where I feel like where Summit and like PDMs, can really get misaligned with what, again, why PDMs are important, because I think as leaders and coaches, we don't know how to approach that because, you know, for some of us, like we've even been raised, like you only have two emotions. You're either happy or mad, right? And there's so many more emotions out there, and it's your job as a leader to kind of navigate that. And I love what Jason also said is like navigating that together, like, hey, me too, right? I know for me, how I approach it is, before we like talk about anything, I just say like, hey, I just want to check in. Like, how are you feeling? How are you doing right now? Right? And if there's like a pause and some silence, and especially if they use like, well, I'm fine, and it's like, cool, thanks for letting me know, but like on a scale of 1 to 10, where's like your stress level right now? Right? So you're really just trying to open it up into a safe environment. And then always when it's high emotion, make sure you validate it, but also just like let them know like you appreciate them opening up to you, like, hey, thanks for letting me know, and it sounds like you're super heavy right now. So you got to be able to pivot in those things, because if you just kind of trying to not make it awkward, that's when the rapport and the trust start to slowly go away and erode the relationship, right? So yeah, I love every conversation is huge right now. But I also, for me, for some of our younger stylists, you also have to learn to pivot as a leader. And I always like to transition this just because, it is a personal development meeting for a reason. So it's even opening up to a question. Hopefully you can get through that barrier by asking those solid questions, but then pivot with like, hey, let's focus on something that's actually inside your control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So I think, if I want to give you guys a script today, like if they seem a little shut down emotional, we've got to acknowledge that. We got to resonate with that, but also to approach it, to open it up, is let's get back into the coaching and mentoring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially on that one, it's like, let's focus on something that's inside your control.
Yeah, I love that, Chad, because that's where my thought was as we were all sharing. Like, I think the caution and the advice to the owners that are listening, and sometimes it's not even owners, right? We have level 3s, level 4s facilitating one-on-one. So stylists is like, and I ran into this, is if there is no structure or we don't have that one question to direct us back to center, like that we can lose the 30 minutes and go like completely left field, and then nothing really got accomplished outside of just like a venting session, which if it's
Yep.
like that's what it needed to be, that's what it needed to be. But so that you don't, because once again, that's draining to the facilitator. It's like
Yep.
that's where I would encourage, like I said, that SMART series outline. Brian, I don't know if you can attach that in the comments, like the Kim Light personal development SMART series that has come out, because that gives you that space to start there. Tell me your personal why, tell me your passion, tell me your joy, tell me, all the good things, tell me what you want to review and celebrate. Like we're making it about you. And then you flow, right? There's a flow. So I think that's something, if you don't have experience to redirect that, you can get lost in what we're talking about.
Yep.
And I think second would be like being mindful about the setting, like the physical setting of your one-on-one. I started recently, like the last couple of months, like I turn the light off, and because we do it in one of our suites, I turn the light off and we have a dim lamp, like amber lighting, close the curtains, we use the PowerPoint, and it's like this just kind of like chill room. And then versus me being like up and stiff in this, like I'm like in the chair, lean back, like kind of posture, and just like, all right, so you know where we're starting, like tell me your why, and it's just that setting, being intentional with that. Maybe you're meeting at a coffee shop, or and then just, is it a coffee shop where, is it loud, are you able to have the conversations you need to have? If people are emotional, do you want to be in public, or do you being mindful of that, and just letting the staff know, like, hey, I'm going the extra mile of like setting the environment for this to be what it needs to be.
Yeah. And I think, I also want to add to that as a hot tip as well. Like what we're really, really talking about right now, to me, fellas, and I could be wrong, but is we're not really talking about coaching right now. We're talking about mentoring. And I get asked a lot, like, what's the difference between coaching and mentoring? Everything I think that we're talking about, even right now, has to do with a lot of mentoring. So, I mean, if you're in a good headspace to absorb that, so if it goes kind of down this emotional shutdown survival mode PDM, that's totally okay. What hot tip I would give to you as well, because as a coach and mentor, like you still have to kind of Mr. Miyagi that situation. And maybe I still, I'm taking this from Jared Ryan. We just talked about this on a community event, is set the timer for, if you have a 30-minute meeting, leave 10 minutes, because there still can be some kind of measurable, right, of growth, or what is something you can control. Because the reality of, our industry, right, is like, at the end of the day, everybody has everybody has something going on in their life, right? And it's our job as leaders to approach it, right, in a way. And what I really recommend is, if it's going to be like, hey, I just want to vent to you, I mean, you can great, and you can do that if you can absorb that, but keep the last 10 minutes of what's something that we can control over the next week or the next 30 days. That can be a little micro goal, so you kind of get out of the season. Because a quote comes up for me is like, everyone is allowed to be in a season, but not longer than a season.
Mm.
So I want you to think about that, right? You're allowed to be in season, you're allowed to be in that emotion, but again, right, you should, you like, if you don't want to stay in that place forever.
Good word, Chad.
Yeah. So I want to pivot slightly because Brian, you see like all the resources and tools when it comes to like PDMs. You see our action plan. I know you probably had your hands on Kim's growth, success things. Like what comes up for you as somebody that sees all this content and that's supposed to help, leaders and salon owners?
Thanks, Chad. I love listening to you guys because I'm thinking like recipes. Everybody's got their jambalaya. Everybody's got their different way of putting things together. And everything you're talking about is organic. And everything that we deal with in Summit is what's right for you. And your individual cultures are unique. And to the degree that you are present and there for your people, if you don't take that leadership position, someone else might, so if you're not building that connection, if you're not finding the space to, walk through this, it's very challenging. Obviously, I've been involved in a lot of different tools, but at the end of the day, those tools are only as good as the effort you bring to them, the energy you bring to them. They give you frameworks. They give everybody a different way to use them. But I mean, you guys all have coaches, you have therapists, this is a great call to be on to, I didn't know what I didn't know, like there are other ways to do it. There are other ways to see it. The, Work Smarter Quick Learn Tutorials, Jacob, is the official name for that series. It's, if you go to summitsalon.com, go to Summit Online, scroll down, you'll see Work Smarter Quick Learn Tutorials. And then there you'll see Take the Stress Out of Professional Development Meetings. And it is a pretty powerful course because it's 25 minutes. It's got a deliverable that you can print off that's in color that I did. But it's going to give you those basic pieces, and I don't think it's a blow your foot off kind of resource because it just gives you a structure, and we've also got the planners and the different ways. But the other thing is you can do a complimentary discovery call with a Summit coach. You can reach out and like see what it takes to build an ally who can help with everything you guys have talked about working through. You didn't do it yourself for the most part. You have that personal heart, but we have resources. We have people to lean on. And I think that's what I've seen time and time again in Summit. We've not only seen it all, we've helped people overcome it all. There's not like a situation we can't imagine that, I mean, they can be crucial, critical conversations that are your probably, scripts for you're not probably a good fit for what we're trying to build here. Richard, you've talked about some of those in your business where you're trying to hold a culture. You can't be everything to all people. So holding that center ground, I mean, so many of our coaches are used to the call where you're at your wit's end. Why am I even like, it's not working? And you like, so a Summit person can believe in you. So like every resource I've worked on was it's like a lattice work that you can then decorate yourself. You can then pull out, and that's really tricky, right? Like, man, to not get so dialed into the numbers, like our new Summit Career Path Planner has a whole journaling kind of highlight of emotional, like some emotional intelligence in there. So just building that in. So we've always making a little bit of a tweak, but I think that idea of being aware of the culture, the energy, what you're doing as a leader, and then using the yin and the yang of our coaches and what we bring to that, along with the tools. And just, guys, there's new stuff every year.
Yeah.
And you guys bring ideas to us, and JJ, the Enneagram, and like you become lifelong learners in this space. And every story I'm hearing from the four of you reasserts that you're invested, you're talking about things you work through, and that's the jam, right? That's what you keep growing, keep listening, I like the folding the laptop down. I like, there's some great take one and run ideas from this meeting, but it's also like, if you haven't talked to someone, do a discovery call. If you haven't done a, Work Smarter Quick tutorial, get on there and see what Kim Light has to say about her experience as a leader and why she developed that tool that way. So yeah, that's my little window into the arc of Summit resources and support.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate it. And I think that's a good segue too. I love to, and I'll start with you, Richard. Like, can you kind of walk me through kind of your go-to framework for powerful PDMs, from like the prep to the conversation flow to even like the follow-up accountability, because I think that last one is probably the most powerful, is what is the follow-up accountability? Because I think in today's age, the follow-up accountability is probably the number one thing that is missed, because the next PDM, it's like, oh, they didn't do anything, so we're going to pick another thing, right? Or they want you to text them every single day, but you don't have the bandwidth to do that, right? So what is the accountability partner? What is the follow-up accountability that they are committed to, not you? The only way that accountability truly works, friends, and everyone that's listening to this, the accountability only works is if they came up with the accountability, not you. So I want to be super clear on that. So Richard, I want to start with you. Just what's kind of your framework as a coach and as a business owner on what your go-to powerful PDM?
I like to, we have those, the Excel reports. I could never remember what they're called. I just know what they look like. The career path guide, right? Um, and I fill those out because like as soon as the end of the month. So like today's the 27th, tomorrow's the end of the month. Tomorrow night, I'm going to sit here at my computer, fill out all of my service providers. I have 7 of them, all of their career paths, right, or their whatever, their numbers, right? And then there I'll be able to identify, okay, their retention is here, it raised up, it increased, right? So then I start note taking to remind myself to bring that up in the conversation. Hey, what happened here? Your retention's doing good. What did you change? What's changing? And then making sure all of that stuff's filled out and I'm prepared for it. So then when they come in and sit down for the PDM, I have a prepared conversation for myself because I'm not going in there just shooting blanks. I'm going in with actual stuff, right? And the hunting term.
Yeah. I think are you taking shots at me because I got a vasectomy, dude? Like that was messed up. I'm telling you, bro, that was
I'm
messed
from
up.
Idaho.
Oh man, okay, I see how it is. Okay,
Yeah.
low blow, buddy, low blow,
Yeah.
literally. Oh my goodness.
But going in unprepared is, it's scary for the owner. So if you go in
Yeah.
with a little bit of information and a little bit of conversation, there's a little bit of confidence versus the imposter syndrome that we develop. Um, and then the follow-up accountability. Follow-up for me is, again, once the PDM is there, I need to take notes, right? Because they're going to say little nuggets to remind myself. And then for the next PDM, I can review those notes with them. Hey, last time you talked about this, what's changed? Or have you worked on that project? Or are you looking forward to this? Because we can't remember everything all the time. So, and then also with those notes is following up with those notes throughout the month until the next PDM. Like if there is like, hey, a check-in, like text me every day to check in to see if I'm holding myself accountable. Are you following through with that? And so, yeah, definitely taking notes.
Yeah, I love that because how many times do we walk into a PDM and they're like, man, it was super slow, I wasn't busy, and it wasn't that, and then you turn the computer over and you're like, well, you had your best month ever. Like, how many times has that happened? Right? And I know I can resonate with that all day, Richard, right? So I think again, if they're heavy in the numbers or if they're really in that behavior of wanting to level jump, like they need to know because I think even Jacob said that before. It's like, oh, you're this close off. The reality is, I feel like if you're really improving your PDMs and the next level PDMs is they should know that they were only $20 off, not you. Right? If they're really into level jumping, as we know, like to level jump, you have to be really intentional. Sometimes it can happen by accident, but now more than ever in this season, you have to be really intentional and know that you are only $20 away or 5% off from rebooking. You like the PDM is basically the end result, not the actual coaching and growth plan at the end of the day. So I love that, Richard. That's huge. Jason, what's coming up for you, buddy?
I'll say again, and it's going to be repetitive, but it's made the biggest difference in my coaching is start by engaging and exploring what's going on in them as a human. So be human first.
Yeah.
Richard's exactly right. My previous meeting with you, I took all kinds of little notes. Funny things you said, stressful things, your hopes. And so I'm looking at those before we come in again. Also, I think that we need to give micro hope goals, micro
Mm,
hope. And so
like
what I would say is if I was coaching Richard, I'd say, okay, man, hey, based on your average ticket, you're not able to hit this service dollar goal. Let's divide the gap by your average ticket and tell me what that is. And he'll be like, that's 11. And I would say, Richard, you have to have 11 more people next month to be able to hit this goal. And so it's like, and a lot of times we tell them what the gap is, but we don't give them this other option. And I would look and I would say, Richard, your conditioning treatments were only 9% of your people, 9%. And a true conditioning, like a treatment-based salon can be 20 to 25%. Dude, if you even hit 19%, that would make up for six of those people. Now you only need six new guests because you can do more with who you got than waiting around to get more guests. You see what I mean? And so these
yeah,
other, okay, yes, there's this goal, but what are other ways we can dig in here and you could knock it out so it's not so overwhelming? I've had more people jump probably the last 7 or 8 months by doing that, finding creative ways to get to the same result. And then my thing is, we have 4 weeks until we're together again, and you want to do, I don't know, uh, X amount, better, then this first week is 25%. The second week, we should be at 50% of that. The third week, 75%. And we're going for that 100% win. And so here's what I'm going to do. I call it the 15-day check-in. And in 15 days, I'm just going to swing by. I may catch you in the break room. I may catch you at the color bar. You may have a minute to sit and just have a coffee with me, but it's not a full one-on-one, but I'm going to be excited. And how close can you get to that 50% of your big goal that we're trying to go for our next meeting? And it just creates this, okay, JJ is going to touch base with me. Because it's easy. It's kind of like we tell our stylist, you have a guest come in, you see that it's a color, a balayage, a conditioning treatment, and you walk up to them, hi, Karen, how you doing? What are we doing today? What do you mean, what are we doing today? She's on the schedule. You know what she's doing. But it's kind of the same way when we sit with our people. It's like, okay, it's been a month. What's happening? Where are you? It's like we need to look like we're actually tracking what they're doing. We know exactly where they should be and what they need. So those are my big things.
heck yeah, yeah, love that. Jacob, what's up for you, buddy?
So
What's your go-to framework?
yeah, I was gonna say you started with that question framework, and honestly, like my brain went to the facilitator of the one-on-one, like the framework of yourself before you show up. Right. And so for me, I look at one-on-ones as one of the ultimate acts of serving and pouring out into my team. I literally say it to people, say it to my staff, like one-on-ones are one of the biggest consumptions of my time when it comes to what I do for my company. And so with that awareness, I know that leading up to, so like I said, they're Tuesday and Wednesday. So Monday and then Tuesday morning, I'm intentional about filling my cup. I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm reading the books, I'm reading the motivational stuff to like pour into myself, because I know as soon as that 11 o'clock one-on-one hits for the next 5 hours, all I'm doing is pouring out. Right. So I think that's really important. And the advice I would want to give to the one-on-one facilitators on that aspect of the framework. I think everything else has been said. I think the 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 idea behind numbers, it's like what I've learned is like from being in the industry 18 years and all the years that I was in the world of non-summit to being of the world of summit, it's like no hairstylist ever got into the industry with the pursuit of numbers, with the with the desire of knowing their numbers. Like that just isn't why we chose to be in this industry. And so whether we hire someone straight out of school or we bring someone in with 5 years experience, like the challenge is the same. we're all here to do hair, be with people, right? You ask people's hairstylists why, 99% of the time it's like, I like to make people feel good, make them feel beautiful. I like when they tell me it's, they love it and it makes me feel good. Like it's all feel good stuff of their why.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers, it's like, that's where I think sometimes maybe at Summit we get a bad rap or a bad rep, like because people are like, oh, well, Summit is numbers and Summit is so structured and Summit is confining and Summit is, like, and it's like, no, like that's just one element of our business of how we can help you build a profitable business. And I think that that's the encouragement that I would give us is like, I feel like in our industry, the word profit has become a dirty word for
Mm.
owners, that they're shameful to say like I want a profitable salon, and then it's like a dirty word among stylists like, oh, Jason's all about profit,
Yeah.
right? Like hello,
Yes.
like
It's
so
so true. It's like, you think about the American dream and being, wealthy and rich, but you don't see a lot of people out there high-fiving a salon owner for being actually profitable for once, right? It's like
yeah,
literally they're the villain. It's
yeah,
even though that's the American dream. Oh my God, that's
dude.
so true. The irony of that, and honestly, like it's so insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
true.
no,
It
and so
is.
yeah, so you're bringing up that the whole villain thing, right? So then it's like villain or victim, like, and side note, like, dude, your presentation from Cancun,
Yeah.
literally once a week, I'm at least talking about it to a
Yeah.
client, to my leadership team, to somebody. Like, dude, I did not realize how relatable and how home run of a topic you guys touched on in the visual of it. Like, dude, great job.
Yeah.
Guys,
Awesome.
if you don't mind, I have a thought.
Hmm?
I mean, Chad, we know back in the day, one of our founders, Randy Kunkel, he always said it's not about the money, but it's about the money. And
Yeah.
here's what I tell all of my people, especially when it's my first time to meet with them, is listen, it's not about the money, but it's about the money. The money meaning I want you to have freedom of choice. Like,
Hmm.
are there ways that when you grew up, things you weren't able to have, things your family couldn't provide, the security that you didn't have? That's why we're doing numbers, because I want you to have choices that those behind you didn't have, but those ahead of you are gonna have.
Yeah.
And my wife always says, has this quote. It's like, if you do what others aren't willing to do now, you'll have more than what others have later. And it's not about competition with others. It's about leaning in and being bold. And if you look at numbers differently, then they're fun. Yeah, totally
Yeah.
get that.
You're the second
Summit
person to
is
say that
great
quote
for
this
this
week.
kind of quote. So, like the other one I love in this vein is goals, deadlines, and that kind of falls into the same idea of, a goal is a dream with a deadline. You got to have a number. You got to have a benchmark. Nobody likes to think about I'd rather have problems to have to not have money on your mind. The money, like those real heartfelt areas where I love your quote. I hadn't heard that one. The flipping around the you'll have when it's like how do you in that space, because a lot of us don't like money. Tax time, like you got to crunch stuff because that idea of tracking and judgment and all the things that it brings up in you when you have numbers.
Yeah.
So good stuff. I mean, I've always loved that in Summit, framing how you can a problem is half solved, when you see that there's too much month at the end of the money and you see that you have 11 people or that you can add some treatments or that there's ways to look at this solution. And that idea too, the other thing I loved in Summit teaching is we're not looking at each other, we're looking at the problem and trying to solve it together. Like that was always a coaching mentoring tool. And we look here, it's not you, this is the thing we're trying to solve here. And it just, these are the things that serve me as well, not totally in the industry. These are life skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just to, recap on me, like my go-to framework, I always have two, like when I think of framework, I think of foundation again. And I think what Summit truly believes in, and again, it's been said in many different ways, but it is a timeless truth that at the end of the day, we're in the business of people. So when we talk about it's not about the money, it's not about the money, like we can only do so much behind the chair. So we have to rely on our relationships and our people is a framework for me. At the end of the day, like when these PDMs, it's not about the numbers, it's about the people, to Jason's point. And there's some people that are great about that, and there's some people that do need work on that. And I hopefully this podcast really resonates with that. The second part of that framework is people, and I truly believe this in my heart of hearts, people can do hard things. And that needs to be an affirmation. And when I hear like Jason say micro hope, sometimes they need to say that out loud during the PDM, right? It's like, I can do hard things. You might not be in the mindset right now, but that's what growth is when you're not in the moment, you can do hard things. And I think for our veteran salon owners out there, if it's quiet during those PDMs, or it's like, hey, what do you want to work on? There, that's where the prep comes in. A lot of service providers, experienced and new, don't like to be put on the spot. So that prep work is vital. So if the PDMs are stagnant, you need to prepare as a leader beforehand with some questions, right? That are not just numbers, but like feel good. So prep work is vitally important to Jason. Everyone needs prep work. If you're new at leadership, what's going to make you excel as a leader is the prep, right? The conversation flow, what I would recommend is you need to be asking more questions, not telling. You have to be more curious, right? So asking things like, what do you think is the biggest thing holding you back right now, right? If you were to solve one thing this month, what would make the biggest difference for you? And then for that follow-up, it's just simply asking, what support do you need from me in the next 30, 60, 90 days? Because there just cannot be any fuzzy agreements when it comes to growth. So we have to kind of shift this to really, relationship-based questions and get curious. So, I mean, I love all these conversations, and what I want to do is take these last three questions, and I want to ask you guys really quickly, because I think we're in a good spot. What is a real life example of where a PDM for you, again, as a coach or a salon leader, like completely turned that stylist life around? What was said, what happened, what made it effective? So I'd love to go down here. Jason, I'll probably start with you because you probably have about 1,000,001. But what is just one of those just feel good stories where a PDM just completely turned around with a stylist, and what
Is that
happened?
because he's the oldest one here? Is that why he
Yeah,
has a million?
yeah.
Come on, man. Man, I immediately, it was this last year, uh, let's call her Lauren. Uh, she had started with us when she was like 19. She'd been with us, 4 or 5 years. Just an amazing girl. Just always did a great job. Early on when she started with us, she had this really bad breakup with a boyfriend. And I knew about that, because how did I know, and how did I know how hard it was on her? Because at the beginning, I would do the rose check-in. What's keeping you grounded? What's your biggest? So that human connection, I had put in the relational bank account some deposits with her. I kind of talked about things I've struggled with in life. And so we get 4 or 5 years down. I knew early on she had a bad breakup with a boyfriend. She's just always growing. She gets a great new boyfriend. And for the next 3 months, she just starts tanking. Her retail's horrible. Her retention goes like just to nothing. Like she's not happy. She's not smiling. When you get in that zone, you can see a human just declining. There was no spark. There was no excitement. I'm like, is she going to leave the company? And so I sat with her and I said, all right, Lauren, I don't want to jump into numbers. This is your meeting. Remember, where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about first? She's like, well, I guess I don't really want to talk about numbers because I really suck lately. I'm like, And it just hit me. I said, Lauren, how's the new boyfriend? This is like 3 months. She smiles. She goes, oh my God, I love him so much. It's so great. And I was like, it's just strange because you seem to be in the happiest time of your life outside of these doors, yet in here you're just not. Are we doing anything wrong? And she just starts crying, and I just hit me, and I said, "Are you thinking that this is too perfect? And this guy is so perfect, and you went through such a bad breakup. Remember when I started coaching you? she just started weeping. She's like, every day I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop and for him not to be in my life. And I was like, you know what, Lauren? It's going to be okay. And you've let this fear dwell in here. And I know you because I remember what happened before. And so after that meeting, it was like, whoop, bam, she took off. The next meeting, she's like, thank you so much for helping me understand that my fear of losing what was good right now was affecting my business. Not only has she jumped levels, but she's doing extra stuff in the company. She's taking on these kind of leadership roles. And just a testament to like having some kind of human connection. I didn't have to play therapist. I didn't have to get deep in the weeds. I didn't have to cry, but just being aware changed everything for her. So make sure you have that human connection.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Richard, how about for you, buddy?
What changed? I don't, man, yeah, I can't think of any specifics. The one I'm thinking of, it didn't go so well on my end, but maybe on their end. But I had one of my top producers. He liked to have side conversations with the other stylist and kind of bringing them down a tier, if that makes sense. And during this PDM, I was talking to him and about the side conversations that he was having, and I was like, "Dude, you're having these conversations. You're bringing the company morale down. Like, what can I do so you can bring those conversations to my table so we can handle those accordingly?" And he goes, "Well, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus." And I'm like, "Dude."
That's usually the warning they're about to throw somebody under the bus.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, if this bus is moving and they got to get on or move out of the way because they're going to get hit, and you're putting them under that tire, basically is what I said. Anyway, things are, my vision for the company and his vision for the company didn't fully align. And he ended up shortly after that later that day, he ended up walking out, which on the opposite side of that, my company is stronger. We're not having those side conversations. So sometimes those it's those tough conversations like the JJ, that conversation you had with that stylist, that's a tough conversation. But sometimes those tough conversations don't always look like they're benefiting the company, but then they turn out like where's the company leading now? Like how's the culture now after all of that? Look like JJ's is positive. Mine's kind of on the heavier side. But looking at the company now, my culture is a lot better without that individual.
Yeah, because you got clarity during that PDM, right? You actually made it about them. Because again, it's not all, Cinderella stories at the end of the day. I mean, I love that, Richard, because how many times do we hold on to people that we've done what, Jason and JJ has done in their PDMs, and you can sit there and hold on to them and hold on to them, and they're sitting in that season for 6, 12 months, destroying your culture when you didn't have that hard conversation or ask questions to really get that clarity to where you no longer are protecting them, right? And you're kind of blessing and releasing, right? I mean, I think that's huge.
AJ, what was that great quote you had about nothing can fix a culture quicker than you kind of had a insight on just how you do that way.
I know what you're talking about, Brian. It is this. Nothing can kill a culture or a company quicker than watching an owner or leader tolerate a bad employee. Nothing can kill a good culture more quicker than watching the leader and owner tolerate a bad individual or an individual who's just their heart's not in it. They don't, and that's what we do. We give too much grace,
Yeah.
and we've made that mistake before. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you all the grace in the world if you want it as bad as I do. But our problem is we want it so bad for people, and if they're in a place emotionally, whatever, that they can't do it, we still fight for them, and it starts tearing things up. I love that, Richard. Like we both told the truth, And it's up to the person we're coaching which way they want to go with it. But it's our job to tell the truth. And we both came out with a great result, if you think about it.
Yeah, 100%. Right? Yeah. Jacob, what's coming up for you? It's a great win? Or maybe not. Like, what's a good story that really changed your culture or your leadership?
Yeah. So I think I've got two, same thing, right? There's so many, but I'm thinking of one most recently where I'm coaching one of my companies out of Knoxville, and in the 4 months that I started facilitating one-on-ones for this company, they had one of their stylists, um, literally went from her monthly average being 4 to 5 thousand a month. She had an $11,000 December. And when we talked this week, she said, your coaching, you helping me see that, like, basically she, right, once she felt safe, she's like, I'm not charging for all the services. I'll throw in a haircut, and because they already spent so much on the color, I'll throw in a treatment because they already did this and that. And I did the long math for her for the year on what she was leaving on the table. And she was like, whoa.
Mm.
Right. So I made it about her. I was like, forget the company. Like, this is your money. And you just had a baby and you talk about your goals and wanting to do this and provide for your family. Like, so in that coaching and talking about the numbers and then yet making it about her and the impact that it was having, she's like, man, a big difference was I just started charging for all the services I was actually doing. I saw the value in myself. Like, you helped me see that. And so for her to have that jump, it was like I could just see it. She's like, oh my gosh, like I was able to have like one of the best Christmases and do all these things. And so that just, once again, like, man, that felt great. Inside my
Yeah.
company, I think about one of my level threes who we were getting her in with an associate, and she was starting to work towards her level four numbers, and she's like, I don't think it's possible to have a $900 day. Like, she was doing 500 to 600. I was like, look, you have an associate now. Like, think about it. Let's look at your schedule. What does that schedule need to look like for you to make $300 more? Right. And within the month, she drops it in the group chat, like, guys, I got to give Jacob credit. He helped me see what I didn't think was possible. Like, I just had my first $900 day, like, weeks before, prior to or after us having this one-on-one, where I literally told him I didn't think it was possible. And just seeing that empowerment in her, and seeing the opportunity. And so, and this is also someone that, but we've talked a lot about the the bank deposits, the emotion deposits. Like, this is someone who 2 years ago was ready to leave because of like the culture and like having permitted too many of the wrong people on the bus, and keeping their seat. But yet, because we had built a relationship, um, she came to me and she's like, hey, like, this is where I'm at. This is how I'm feeling. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually did apply to this other salon, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. But can you pray with me? Like, can you pray? Because I want to make the right decision. Like, can you pray with me? And this was a moment where I realized my phrase of, like, in our company is, we grow people, we change lives. And I tell them, I was like, if I do my job right, executing that quote and that statement, I will eventually grow you to the point where you either outgrow me, right? Therefore, your season comes and you move on to other things and other places. And I got to be okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's so powerful, right? It's a roller coaster ride. And if we're not invested in our people to have those hard conversations, again, like I think a lot of salon owners too, with the challenge with PDMs is, as a leader, you have to be okay with getting uncomfortable to really invest in your people, because a lot of our team members have so many limited beliefs in their head and they are their own worst enemy. And I think it's your job, right? And your responsibility to get curious and start breaking down those barriers one PDM at a time. It's not going to happen in the next 30 days. It might not happen in the next 60, but you have to build that trust and respect at the end of the day, right? I freaking love all these stories. I think mine is a little bit more goofy, but it always comes to mind every single time is in my own salon company. As a coach, I had a really high She was a young stylist, just right out the gate, was like crushing it and was on the verge of like level jumping. She was literally, I think, one qualifying month away from level jumping. And, you know, you kind of see it where she comes in, she's a little negative, not herself. And of course, being a young owner, you know, I was like, okay, you know, I'll just kind of let it ride for a little bit. Maybe she'll get out of that season. And then we got like month 2, month 3, and it was getting progressively worse. And finally, in our PDM, I was like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, you're not your normal self. It seemed like a lot of things are heavy right now. And lo and behold, come to find out, is about the summertime, a bunch of her friends were about to go to a Taylor Swift concert, and she couldn't afford to go. And to me, as a grown man in his 30s at the time, I was like, could
Be
not,
careful what
right?
you're about to say about T Swizzle, bro. That used to be my crush growing up.
I couldn't relate to it, right? So I'm like, holy cow. But you know, I think everyone as a leader has these like epiphany moments that have this moment of clarity that's so powerful. And instead of like not relating with that or making fun of her or being judgmental, I was like, hey, well, what do we got to do to get you there? And like right then, even her attitude was like, boom. And again, like how many times in our PDMs or are the people that we lead make literally mountains out of anthills, right? And it's our job to really resonate with that and get clarity, because all it took, again, is just doing some and investing here and asking questions. It's like, hey, so we literally spent 30 minutes looking at how much it was going to cost for a ticket, how much was the hotel, how much was going to be the gas, how much was going to be the food, and let's be honest, how much the booze was going to cost. And we came up with a number and we did the reverse math, and it was like she just needed to do like $20 more a day in services. And her look on her face was like, I could do that. I was like, yeah, you've been doing it 3 months ago, right? And I totally get that, but the accountability and the follow-up, and then there was like that weekly check-in, like, hey, how are we doing? What's short? You know, and like right then and there. And then during the course of that time, of course, within, I think it was like you know, those T Swift tickets, they go pretty quick. So it was like a 6 month out journey, but within 6 months, lo and behold, she level jumped, right? So at the end of the day, it's about building people up and being in the business of relationships. And that's one story I'll never forget, because it was just that moment of clarity. And then also, it doesn't have to be relatable to your goals. Like your story is not their story, and you've got to find their happiness. And, you know, at Summit, at the end of the day, right, we are a happiness project. We're trying to find that. You just need to slow down before you speed up. Because I think at the end of the day, right, like empathy without any kind of direction, that's what keeps people stuck. And direction without empathy shuts people down. So I want you to think about that, because great PDMs require both. There's some PDMs that'll be coaching, some of those will be mentoring, right? And I just really love this entire conversation. And I want to take the last kind of couple minutes really quickly and go through our speakers here. What's something, if a salon owner is feeling overwhelmed, a little exhausted, maybe hasn't done PDMs consistently, what's like a 30-day micro goal they could start with to get the ball rolling on this today? Richard, I'll start with you, buddy.
Jump in quick, or I'll just jump in quick to tag off my little product. Everything you guys again are saying, we all love a story. We all know the real stories, and we can't get enough of those stories. And Kim has 2 great stories in the Work Smarter Quick Learn tutorial. Like that's my quick 30 find that tutorial, because it really recaps a lot of this and one and shares these true life stories that people get helped through. So just wanted to throw that in, and then yeah, take it away, Richard.
Yeah, micro goal is set up at least minimum set up the next PDM for your team, for the grace of your team. And then, you know, it's scary at first, you know, like we weren't born walking, right? So it's like you got to start somewhere, you know. Starting cutting hair, I never touched a set of clippers until I went to hair school, you know, and I didn't even know back then I didn't even know how to use a curling iron. I still don't, but That's a different story. But anyway, you got to start somewhere. My favorite saying is throw your head over and your body's going to follow, and just trust the instinct, right? You know, you opened up your company for a reason. You know, nobody told you that that's what you had to do. And now it's your turn to hold that responsibility to your company to make sure that it's guided in the direction you want to take it. And it starts with PDMs. It starts by reaping and sowing into your team. And so just schedule that next PDM with your team.
Love that. Jacob, how about for you, buddy?
I think, the question to me stands out with, because I'm the frame, I'm imagining an overwhelmed, possibly on the verge of burnout, like joy is gone, right? Like, and you're here like, I need to pour into people, right? So I think to me, the micro goal first is self, like look in the mirror and see what do I need for myself. I want to drop and recommend this book that I've been referencing through one-on-ones for the last 6 months. It's called The Mountain Is You by Brianna West. And basically it's a book that helps explore why people self-sabotage and offers strategies to overcome it, reframing self-sabotage as a protective mechanism rather than a deliberate act. Because I think we've all asked the question, like, what's the biggest thing in your way of your success, of your growth? And this could be like to our stylist or you to the owner. And it's like often it's always self, right? Like we're the biggest thing. And so the idea of this visual is that the mountain is you. You're the very thing in your own way of your own growth, of your own dream of what you once dreamt of your company or being, right? So I think taking that time to really see what you need for yourself to be in a place to then be excited and have joy. I think that's really important, to have joy knowing I have one-on-ones tomorrow. I have one-on-ones next week, like, and be joyous about that. And I think another option, and Brian mentioned this, it's like you have us, like Summit Salon Business Center, like me facilitating one-on-ones for my client right now is huge for her. Her husband's in the army. He got deployed. Like she's single mom, like basically single mom right now, like 2 kids, running a business, all the things. And like all her husband asked was like, man, I just, any way you can help her, while I'm gone, I appreciate it. Yes, we'll do the package. And that was one of my suggestions, was like, let me take one-on-ones for you, because they were being done inconsistently, right? Like they weren't being followed through, like all the things. And fair enough. Like she was juggling life. And so the empowerment for her company has been huge. So I would say a micro goal, set up a discovery call. If you have an active coach, talk to your coach and see if that's something they can do. Personally, like even there's a salon that I'm about to start doing one-on-ones for their leadership team next week. They have a coach, but their coach is focusing on their business. And that coach said, let's get you a one-on-one coach, someone that's just going to facilitate one-on-ones for your leadership team. Right. So use the network, use the resources, because you don't have to be alone. You don't have to go at it alone on this journey of discovering the best version of yourself. And then, hey, if you come to a place where, you know what, Jacob, you know what, Jason, like I've watched you facilitate for the last 3 months, 6 months, I'm ready, then take over the reins. Or you may be like, you know what, this is the greatest investment. Keep doing it. I'm seeing growth. My team loves it. I love it. That's worth the investment, So
Love it. Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. What do you got,
Jacob,
JJ?
that leadership, that's it.
Say that again.
I was just going to say that we do have a leadership and culture division, right? Like that clarification, like we talk coaching and stuff, but we have a
So I think Brian's cutting out a lot. He's having some Wi-Fi
Technical
issues.
difficulties.
But you speaking my language, Brian. I'm the team dynamic specialist for Summit in the leadership division, and I do like staff team retreats, leadership retreats, coaching, all of that. So Jason Culverhouse at summitsalon.com. Anyone watching this, and you just need some advice, I mean, just reach out to me. Let's get on a call. I'd be glad to just give you some ideas, some thoughts. The leadership division, we have so many things. If you'd like to reach out, I would even encourage you, if you have a Summit coach, talk to your coach first. say, hey, I saw Jason on this thing. Talk to your coach about what you need, and they may be able to help. But just let us help. So when we come to kind of the close here, and we're talking about PDM, you know what, Chad? It makes me think is everything is connected to something else, and so
Yeah, bro, don't quit.
we could also do a full podcast on staff retention. Like, how do I keep my staff from leaving? Guess what?
That freedom, bro.
A consistent PDM is something that's going to retain staff. Because I don't know about y'all, but down here in Texas, all these young girls, their friend got an ice machine and a cool neon sign and a little suite, and it's her and her best friend working. And oh my God, they play Taylor Swift all day. They have so, oh, I want to go do that. And if I'm an owner that says I'm going to support you, I'm going to mentor you, and sometimes I do a PDM with you and sometimes I don't, I'm flaky. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They could care less how smart I am with numbers and all this. If I am not consistent, it's going to give everyone in my company an excuse to feel like I'm an afterthought. Jason talks a big game, but he's not really supporting me. So if we want to retain our staff, let's get consistent with this. And so I just encourage you, even to the degree, I do two things. When I set a meeting with any of my stylists the first year, we find a day and a time that works the first week of every month. It's a standing appointment with them. I tell them, I'm committed to you. You tell me what day and what time of day. Every single first week of the month, I'm ready. And then I'll also give them the option. If something comes up for you, you want to do virtual, we can Zoom. They have my Zoom link, or it can be in person. But I guarantee them, and when it's set, then it's easier for me not to flake out. Yeah. Let's see what anything else. I think the most important thing is, what's their why? We can tell them here's what you need to do, and here's how to do it. But, if we don't start with why, find some reason in their life, whether it's Taylor Swift ticket, moving out of their mom or dad's house, whatever. We have to find out what is their heart wanting, and then we go from there.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. I think immediately what you should be doing, I love what I'm hearing from Jacob is you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to invest in yourself. So, I mean, I think I would say 2 micro goals in the first 30 days is I would just schedule 5 documented PDMs right away, no matter what. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be about a new system. It's not going to be about their numbers. It's going to be about them. So go have coffee, schedule it out. Hey, it's been a while since I've checked in. I just want to reconnect and just see what's going on in your life and build that relationship back up. And if you need help on some questions to ask, just direct message, Richard, myself, Jason, Jacob, just have some conversations, discovery to build that relationship back up. And the second part is invest in yourself. Like one book that recently I read that you can easily read in the next 30 days is Hero on a Mission. And what I love about that book is it just breaks down what season you are in your life and little steps that you can take to maximize not only your self-care, but your emotional intelligence and your self-awareness. So I know a lot of times in our industry, our salon owners invest in color classes and hair cutting classes and stuff of that nature. But when have you invested in your leadership? So, you need to either invest in yourself or hire somebody at the end of the day, because the best quote I heard in this industry when I started out in this industry is, at the end of the day, you can be in business for yourself, but you don't have to be in business by yourself.